Hello, in this video, I want to show you how you can use R to export data out of Power BI. More specifically, to export it directly out of the Power Query Editor. A lot of users are using the Power Query Editor today to take data that they receive and quickly clean and transform that data because with the click of a button, the Power Query Editor allows you to do some very powerful things. There's a lot of really cool transforms in there, like pivoting and unpivoting data, cleaning data. The clean transform will remove all unprintable characters. And so if you're familiar with that, you've probably asked yourself at some point or another, can I export that data using R? And the answer to that question is, of course. That's why we're here. So at the very end of this video, I'll go through what you need to do to get started. I've already covered that in a previous video, and I will also include those links down below. But what I want to do is jump right in. So in this video, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on Edit Queries to launch the Query Editor. Now from inside the Query Editor, in my previous video I showed you how you could use R as a data source. So we did get data, R script, we inserted some code there. What we're going to do here is actually use R kind of as a transform. And so we'll go over to the Transform tab within the Power Query Editor, and then we can export that data with literally one line of code. Now my internet sales table has, I think it's approximately 60,398 rows if I remember correctly. And I want to export all of that data to a CSV file. Now, I haven't really cleaned this data up. This is just data that I imported in here. Maybe I renamed a couple of columns, it looks like, but that's about it. So I'm going to go over to our script over here on the top right-hand corner. I'm going to click on that, and then that's going to open up that R script editor that we get with Power BI. Now, this is just a plain box. It's not going to give you any IntelliSense. It's not going to help you troubleshoot or debug your code, so keep that in mind. If you want to test it out beforehand, I recommend using RStudio. What's happening here is all of our code up until this point is being stored in a variable called dataset. And we're going to use that dataset variable as our data source, and then we're going to write all of the data to a CSV file and a location that we specify. So I'm going to go ahead and type in write.csv right here, and then our source is going to be dataset. And then I need to go ahead and type in the location where I want to put that file. Now, like many other programming languages, I need to come in here and use the double backslash for each of these directory locations. And that's because the backspace there, the backslash, is essentially an escape character. So if you only use it one time, it's not going to work for what you're trying to do. And so I'll go to the very end here, add a couple more there, and then I'm just going to call this internet sales.csv. Use a quote there to close out that string literal, and then I'm going to use a closing parenthesis. I think that's it. One line of code. We're now going to write this data out to a CSV file. So let's go ahead and hit OK. Cross your fingers. We'll see what happens. All right, we'll give this a moment. It is about 60,000 rows. So while this is spinning, you can check out my hotel here in New York. And as soon as this is done, that's a good sign. What that means is that it's empty, it's written all the data out. Now, you might say, I want to write it out, but I want to keep my data. I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go validate that we got our data, it's in that file, in the CSV file real quick. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how you can manipulate very quickly the ILM code to actually return that data for you. All right, let's jump over to the file and make sure that that happened. There we go. Inside of my file directory where I wanted to put that file, it is now there, and I can see that at 6:08 p.m. that file was written. I can also go ahead and open this up, and then we can take a look at the data that was loaded into the CSV file as well. Now once this is done and we've validated that it has worked correctly, we're going to go back over to Power Query Editor and take a look at that as well. And so if we just go down here and keep going down, you see that there's many rows of data. And it'll take a while here to get to the very end. So let's just keep on scrolling. And there we go, there we go, there we go. Now what was interesting is I was actually teaching a class here in New York, and the student said to me, oh man, when I export via the visual, there's a limit of 30,000. And I said, well, that's true. However, if you use R, you're not going to run into that limitation of 30,000. And you see that right here, right? We got row after row after row. And so it is 60,398. Now let's go back over to the Power Query Editor and let me show you how you can get that data back since it disappeared on us. All right, so I'm going to go back over to the Home ribbon, and then I am going to open up the actual code in the background. Once again, if you are not familiar with ILM, this can be a little bit intimidating. But what I want to do is in this return clause right here, I simply want to return the last step before this step occurred. But I want to make sure this step runs. So if I say return renamed columns, the final step won't run. So it kind of goes in order. So instead, what I can do is I can add a comma at the end of this last line and then reference that previous variable there, and then I can execute it. So let's try that out. We'll go to the very end here. We'll go down to the next line, and then I'll say return value. And then on the other side of return value, I will simply reference that previous step there. So I'm going to say renamed columns. There we go. And then down here, I want to make sure that my return clause is saying return that final step that I just added, which is return value. And so now it'll go through every one of those steps in the Power Query Editor, and then it'll get to the run step. It'll run that right to a CSV file, but then we're going to return those values back into the Power Query Editor. So let's test this out real quick. I'll go ahead and click done. And there we go. That's pretty cool. So that's a question I get a lot of times. Oh, you wrote that out there. How do I get that data back? You just reference that previous variable, just display the results of it. And now I can go through and start adding some more data cleansing operations or whatever it is I want to do. All right. So I was about to say thank you for watching this video, but I did promise that I'll take you over to Microsoft R Open, show you where you can go to download that as well as R Studio. So let's go ahead and jump over there real quick. And this is for those of you who are brand new to R. So what I've done is I've already set up my browser right here where I've gone to imran.microsoft.com/open. And so from right here, if you guys go here, you can come over here, click download, and then this is going to take you over here where you can choose what your operating system is. So for me, if I click download, that's going to download Microsoft R Open for Windows. The other thing that you will need probably is going to be R Studio. Now I say probably because it is optional. You don't need it. It's not required, but it's going to help you out a lot. You saw that text editor. It's not going to help you out. R Studio makes it very easy to install packages. We haven't talked about that yet. Future video, it's coming. And it helps you to kind of debug and test your code. Go take a look at the previous video for that. Now here, I will simply go into download R Studio. I think if I remember correctly, there's quite a few downloads you go through. We only need the free version for this. So I'm going to go ahead and click R Studio download. Then it takes you to the bottom. And then you choose your operating system. And then it downloads it. And that's it. All right. Thank you for watching this video. If you haven't caught my previous videos or my future videos, which I haven't recorded yet, that's okay. Follow me on my channel, and they're coming soon. Thank you, and enjoy.